notification. Okay, perfect. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast. We have an incredible guest with us this afternoon, one who we are very humbled that would take time out of his busy schedule to come by and give us some information as well as some inspiration. And that is none other than Brother Kelvin. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Alaikum salam.
Yes, sir. Well, the first thing we want to get directly into it. What was it like to be on death row?
Well, it was very hard, brother. It was very hard. It was misidentification in my case, and then they arrested me, and I didn't have no information to give them. If I did have it, I wouldn't have gave it to them because they had arrested my brother prior to me, and he had gave an alibi defense. But come to find out later, down the line, that his wife got mad at him and went and told the homicide detectives that he wasn't with her at the time of the crime, and that they never gave me that information until like almost 28 years later when I was going in federal court. And then my brother was deceased at that time. Had I had that information at that time, that would have been evidence to help exonerate me during my jury trial because it could have created reasonable doubt. When you're on trial for murder, you don't have to put up the defense up, but if you do put a defense up, you have to create reasonable doubt.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. And how long were you in prison for?
I did 33 years straight.
Mm. And you saying this is on a crime that you didn't commit?
Right.
Wow. Yes, sir. What advice would you give to young people who are watching, who about going into the system?
Well, the advice that I would give them the advice, try not to get in trouble and go through the system because the system corrupts you. And the system, it used to be about rehabilitation. It used to have like in the early 80s, if you got locked up, they had programs you could go to go school. They had college, people that was going to college from the prison, and they had furloughs where people would be able to come home, you know what I mean, throughout the year because of their good behavior before they came home. And that they had family visits where your family could come like 2 or 3 times out of the year and you had a family picnic. But they exonerated all of that and they just made it just cold, stone-hearted, punitive damage. Whereas they took away all the programs and all the education program and just locked you in your cell and just was hardcore on you.
Yes, sir.
But they didn't give you no other opportunities. So prison used to be about about rehabilitation. They took all that away. When I went to prison, it was 7 penitentiaries in the state of Pennsylvania. It's now over 38 state penitentiaries.
Yes, sir. And while you were in, how did you hear the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
Well, it was Philadelphia is a rough city. And the Black Mafia came out of Philadelphia. And they were somewhat affiliated with the Nation of Islam. Not that Elijah Muhammad taught that, but some brothers, you know what I mean, they took and formulated what they called the Black Mafia, and they were shaking down the whole city. And so a lot of those former brothers, when the nation turned over to Wallace D. Muhammad, the son of Elijah Muhammad, they went with Wallace D. Muhammad. So they had the power and position that they had from being in the Nation of Islam. So basically they controlled the jails. So when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when Mr. Farrakhan stood up, there was some old former followers that began to teach us young brothers about the teachers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we had a real dynamic brother we called Minister Willie 30X. And he taught me the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I was going to court at the time on pre-trial, and he was telling me the technology that the devil displayed and everything. So I started contacting my lawyer on questions and stuff, because at that time, before I was locked down, before I went upstate, I was down the county jail, and they had law libraries, and I could go down there and do research. And so throughout my period of her on my case, she was on my case like a year. And that's why I asked you to read the Workers' World News. They coerced witnesses to change their identification and say it was me, and had witnesses coming in the courtroom when my lawyer and the judge wasn't there. The DA was bringing them in there, trying to coerce them to say it was me. And when they wouldn't say it, the DA would give their mothers a check. They was juveniles, and they would walk out. And when my lawyer come, I would tell her to put it on record and let the judge know what they was doing. And she wouldn't do it. So, you know, it caused the tension between me and her, because I saw that she wasn't on my side. So make a long story short, for a whole year, she was representing me, even till we got to the part of jury selection. And jury selection, when they going for the death penalty, during the jury selection, they sequence the jury, they question the jurors. And any of them that say that they have a problem or oppose the death penalty, after they question the jurors, they call them out, they take them out the courtroom, then they call them in individually, and they question them. And the ones that said that they had a problem imposing the death penalty, the Commonwealth job was to not to rehabilitate them. He would ask them, you said you could not get a death penalty in no circumstance. Could you get a death penalty under any circumstances and stuff like that? And they would say, yeah, right? And he would shake his head, telling them, say, yeah. So therefore, he would strike them, preempt them, without my lawyer being able to get a chance to rehabilitate them. And then you had some that come in and say that they could consider, so my lawyer would try to rehabilitate them, saying, in a proper case of a proper case, after you heard the evidence, could you render a fair verdict if it required the death penalty? And if they say no, then the Commonwealth will move the court to exclude the jury without having to use a strike, because each lawyer had 20 strikes to pick a jury. So basically, most of the jurors that were selected was death qualified jurors, because the jurors that didn't sit on the jury said that they could not oppose the death penalty. So basically, it was a death qualified jury. See, and a lot of things that's not written on the record. The Commonwealth would nod to the jurors and stuff like that. Like white jurors would say, yeah, I could do the death penalty in any case and all that. And they would ask the jurors stuff like, would you believe a cop word more so than you would believe a civilian or on testimony? And most of the jurors said, yeah. And then some of them said that they had, when we were questioning, some of them would say that they had a questionnaire, and some of them would say that they had police in their family, right? And so therefore, when they would question the jury individually, we bring the jury in one at a time and question them, they said, could you put away your bias and your prejudice and be fair before you decide whether a cop is telling the truth or not? And someone would say no. And someone would say no, then that would give us cause to move. They had that jury removed from the jury panel. But if someone would say yes, they could, then it was no reason to strike them, or my lawyer would strike them. But the DA would try to rehabilitate them. So, but make a long story short, so it came down to basically, it was a death qualified jury. Most of the jurors had to agree that they could oppose the death penalty. So when they were seeking a first-degree murder conviction, when they seeking a first-degree murder conviction and a death penalty, that means like sometimes they seek a first-degree murder conviction, but it don't be a death penalty case. First-degree murder conviction will be life in prison for life. But then some first-degree murder conviction will be where they will seek the death penalty, meaning that after if they convict you of first-degree murder, they will hold a second penalty hearing and present evidence, aggravating and mitigating evidence why the jury should sentence you to death.
Yes, sir. And while you were in prison, how did you keep your faith up to not give up?
Well, brother, I'm gonna be honest with you. When I started studying the teachings of Elijah Muhammad, it gave me the courage and the will to fight because it was the knowledge that I didn't have before. I was a tough guy. I would fight you. And I thought I was strong, but I really wasn't. You don't know your strength until you're really under pressure. And the knowledge that you get strengthens you. But then the devil tried you with that knowledge because they was like persecuting us for standing up for the teachers of Honorable Elijah Muhammad, tried to discourage us because they had never wanted to see the teachers of Elijah Muhammad come back. So it said it in persecution. And the scriptures say persecution is worse than slaughter. So it led to physical confrontation. It led to, because we was teaching, it led to them coming and separating us from other people. They would come to our cell 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and move us to different areas in the prison and take us out and take us to other county prisons just because we were standing up for the teachers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because we wasn't the type that had like accept the teachings and like sat in the corner and just say we believed it. We actually was propagating the teachings, converting people while we was in prison. So that's how I became a minister, because we had set up our own regime inside the prison, and we had brothers that we raised up that they went to other prisons and that they reported back to us, but they was under our regime, but we was teaching under the teachers of Honorable Elijah Muhammad. These was not these was vanguards. They was no ordinary followers. These was real soldiers. And they became frightened of the teachings. And so the guards had beat several brothers up, and we was in riots. We had fought back. And all that played a part in me getting the death penalty as well, because when I was 22 years old, when I came into the teachings, I was proud to be a father when it wasn't popular to be a father at the time. And they wanted to make an example out of us. So the guards, the former Muslim followers of Elijah Muhammad, saying that we was disturbing what they had going on. We got into it with the white boys. You dig what I'm saying? The guards would stick the white boys on us that we knew who they was, but they had put our people back to sleep. So all that was a challenge. So a lot of times when I was down the county prison doing pre-trial, because of the trouble that I had got into from teaching the teachers of Elijah Muhammad, they had locked me down on administrative lockdown, meaning that they put me in a segregated area. And when I would come out, they would escort me to court, to the law library, or escort me to medical and stuff like that, and kept us locked in. And when we would go to court, at that time, they would have helicopters and extra police following the shared vans like we was real terrorists. Because that's how much afraid they was scared of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm glad that you're okay, sir, and we are happy that you are a free Black man. When you were segregated, what did that do to your spirit? Like, what was it like being by yourself inside the prison?
But what happened is, when they would put us on administrative lockdown in the hole, that means that like they would like, see, they put us in a hole, top of a hole. Some people was on administrative lockdown because of self-protection. Some people was on minister lockdown because people was after them. They couldn't defend themselves. But they put us on minister lockdown because they considered us as agitators, right? So what they did was when we was on administrative lockdown, we were supposed to like be in a area, but you come out all day, but you just couldn't go in population. But what they did is, because we still would teach the brothers that was in the area near where we was at. So what they did was they even isolated us more, where though they put us in administrative lockdown, whereas though they only let us out 2 hours out of a day while everybody else was in their cell. And we got a phone call then, and they put us back in our cell and let the other people out all day. So they was persecuting us to the extent, to that degree.
Yes, sir. And how was your family and friends for 33 years that you were locked inside? How did they handle that?
Well, like I said, when I first became a follower of the teachers of Elijah Muhammad and began to propagate the teachings, it wasn't popular being a follower of Elijah Muhammad. And at first, a lot of my friends and stuff, they laughed at us. They thought that was that old stuff, right? But as we grew in power and we grew in respect, then they was proud to let people know that they know us. See what I'm saying? Because we had established a beachhead beyond the enemy line, and we had established a military might inside the double death camp. So, but you know, they was then they would like have like the Sunni imams come up and talk to us on official visits to try to dissuade us, to cool down, and to because they was women fed to from the devil. They would like it was like some physical confrontations that happened with brothers got into it with some brothers because of, you know, the religious debates, which, you know, I might be on one block, other brothers is on other blocks, but the ball still fall on you because you're the official. So sometimes that led to some types of fights. And then we had to straighten it out, but we had to fight and they had to go to war with the devil and the hypocrites to establish the nation of Islam. You know, and a lot of brothers was beaten in prison and was maimed by the guard, me, myself as well, but we still stood firm, even going to court. The sheriffs harassed us. And see, it was like 4 elder brothers then that was like 14 years older than me that was former followers of Elijah Muhammad. And they was very sincere and they taught us very well. And this was the time when we wasn't getting no videos, we wasn't getting no newspapers, and we didn't have no administration coming in from the street. I'm talking about 1982. And we went on our own and established a regime of our own. And the minister used to write me back then and send me copies of Farrakhan the Traveler and Farrakhan the Traveler and Is It Possible Don Elijah Muhammad Still Physically Alive? And I used to write him and tell him what was going on and everything. He was just telling me the whole fast and everything, you know. So that's how that went.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. And once you got out, what was your main focus?
Well, first, my main focus was, once I got out, my main focus was trying to adjust because I had been away so long. And the streets looked like a war zone from where I came from because of this crack epidemic. And I was like lonely. I was like depressed. But what it was me adjusting to the fact that I had lost all those lives years out of my life, and the people that I was looking for when I came home was no longer out on the street and in the neighborhood. And it had breeded a whole new generation. And the people is the standard stimulus that we had, they had nowhere near that. When I come up on a fighting spirit, or on a revolutionary spirit, you know. Me and Mumir was best friends. Me and him walked and talked together. We did law work together and everything. See, back then, that's like I said, when I had 7 different lawyers, back then you could file pro se motions in court, challenge your lawyer ineffective assistant of counsel, and the judge would let me relieve the lawyer and give you another lawyer. And then I had hearings, and every time I had a hearing, the lawyer wasn't prepared to question the other lawyer and stuff like that. They were selling me out. And they even went so far as to destroy the notes. Whereas though where I went on appeal, the notes wasn't there, where I questioned the lawyer about his ineffectiveness, so I couldn't have had a fair appellate review. So this is why everything the federal court do is like, because they had more money, they put cameras in the courtroom, and one federal judge, after 25 years of being denied appeals, and my death warrant signed twice, one federal judge was granting me a hearing on 7 different issues called the evidentiary hearing, which if I can prove that would exonerate me. So what they did is they came to me with a plea bargain because they wanted to protect the lawyer that was sitting beside me because they used him to get me. Because I went on trial for my life and he was representing me under conflict of interest. And then I had alibi witnesses and eyewitnesses that said it wasn't me, but he don't call them, but he called witnesses that was a block away that know me, that said they saw somebody running away, they had a criminal record, so that the jury could be prejudiced and he say that you know him. And the DA argued that why would he tell the truth about me when he know me and he have a criminal record? So why would a lawyer call somebody that's 3 blocks away and didn't see the crime and not call somebody that was right there at the crime and identify someone and wouldn't change the identification? So they legally lynched me.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry to hear that. What was the final, for people who are watching, what was the final straw that got you able to escape being on death row?
The final straw was when the federal judge, one federal judge, see, in the state Supreme Court, the highest state Supreme Court has 7 judges, right?
Yes, sir.
And they make a ruling on your case. Say it's a 3-3 tie, the 7th judge breaks the tie, right? And each time they kept affirming my sentence. But what happened in these lawyers would come on the case and they would stay on your case no more than 2 or 3 years. And then after that, they would be off the case. Lawyers that never came and visit you enough, they just read your notes, didn't do no investigation and think they know your case. When I was telling them that the evidence that was in the case was purged testimony, just like the informant that they used. They used an informer saying that I confessed to him, but he was under investigation for forging my own checks. But the DA presented evidence and presented the police down there, held that over the dude here, saying that the dude didn't forge my uncle checks and that my uncle took a complaint out on the guy after he found out the guy was going to be a witness against me, right? And they fooled the jury when the whole time I had to file a lawsuit. And in the lawsuit, I got the police documentation showing that the dude made a mention of cashing the checks. But he said that my uncle gave it to him. But the Commonwealth had evidence to get a handwriting analysis to show that that's his handwriting or if it's not his handwriting. But they didn't present that at my trial, and I didn't have the money to do it. So now, when I got the Federal Defense Association, which was funded by the federal court, after I was down like 19 years, they got a handwriting analysis expert and said that that was the guy handwriting. And the judge said that had the jury knew that, the jury would not believe his testimony. So they used the purge testimony. And the police used purge testimony. So, you know, I had a lawyer sitting beside me. The thing is with a lawyer is not a lawyer of sitting beside you, but having a lawyer that's effective, that's going to make the system work and take the lawyer through the due process. 85% of the cases that come through the criminal justice system, the people plead bargain because they're afraid to go to trial. So because I chose to go to trial and they didn't have an airtight case because it was misidentification, and I wouldn't bow down, they say, who this nigga think he is? They did all the underhand things that I didn't think that they would do. And that's the same thing that they did in Mumir's case. So in my case, we read my case, the evidence do look overwhelming because I never was able to present a defense.
Yes, sir. And when you say Mumir, can you please say the full name so we can know who you're talking about?
Mumir Abu Jamal.
That's what I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So me, a brother named Charles X. Beasley, Willie 30X Clayton, and all our brothers used to study the law. We used to write writs and petitions because at that time, you could write a petition to the court, and then when they was on your court case was on appeal, they had then what we called was a 3201 or 3205. You could supplement and put stuff in your brief that the lawyer didn't put in, and they would give you a new trial on the stuff that you wrote, or remand your case back down for him on the stuff that you wrote that the lawyer didn't do. But they cut off those avenues now that you don't get those chances no more. They limit those tools and stuff now, and you stuck.
Yes, sir. Well, I want to thank everybody's commenting. People sending you the greetings, saying assalamu alaikum. Thank you all. I can't wait to put this on YouTube so people can continue to like and share the people's podcasts. I want to thank you, Brother Minister, for your sacrifice and the sacrifice of your family. We have a few more questions for you, sir. I just want to do a quick 60-second commercial break for all of the sponsors of the People's Podcast of this new season that we have coming up so we can get more testimonies from believers from all across the country, but especially like our brother Minister Kelvin, man, firsthand testimony of what it is like to be behind the walls of this enemy. And man, it's the fact that he's able to come out and tell his own testimony after 33 years, that's a blessing. And we are proud that Allah has that got you through, sir. Please catch the People's Podcast or make donations. If you all who are watching, my brother Rashad, Street Premier Media Production. He has a 4K camera, a drone. He does television and film editing. My sister Miriam, ABC I Love Me, children's book and coloring book, both available on Amazon. My other sister Naima, Stay On Point Dance Academy, LLC. We love our tiny dancers. She teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country. Our brothers out of Los Angeles, MTS Car Bros, any make, any model, any year. 30 to 50% off. Make sure you reach out to them so we can get some, if you want some transportation. Our brother out of Chicago, Brother Enoch, Kid Pop Detox. It empowers youth and young adults towards healthy lifestyles and choices and practices in a holistic approach. Thank you very much, Brother Enoch. Asiatic Minds, our school, Asiatic Minds Online, which is a new school that I'm very excited about promoting. Our sister came on and did a great job of telling people how they can create young gods at that school. Make sure you go to asiaticminds.com. Thank you very much. Sister Latasha Muhammad, Queen is I, Poetry and Apparel. Sister Latasha Muhammad, Queen is I, Poetry and Apparel, and amazing clothes. We're coming right back to our brother Minister Kelvin. Fresh and Clean, LLC. Fresh and Clean Sanitizing.com. Make sure you reach out to them. This is our brothers out of Albany, by the way of Newark, and Brother Aaron. Also Elevated Places, Inc. Incorporated, Adult Counseling, Youth Counseling, Life Management, 229-344-1474. Make sure we reach out and support him as well. Dr. Henry M. Carter, King Henry's Turkey Legs, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Rashad Muhammad, COVID-19 Disinfecting Cleaning Services out of Chicago, Illinois. My father's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, AbdulSharif.com. And last but not least, my two books, Cleopatra, which is a children's book, and No Father, No Excuse, which is on Amazon. Thank you all very much for your sponsorships and donations. Okay, sir. now that we are back to our brother Kelvin, and people are commenting all praises to Allah. Thank you all for watching. My next comment for you is: will you ever write a book on your personal life?
Yes, I got to get to that. I got to get to that. I had somebody working on a film production for me, but they sold it. It was supposed to be coming out this year. So that was a setback. So I see that you really just got to do things on your own. You can't wait on nobody.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And,
Yes, sir.
you know, like I said, my wife just died last month. And then I lost a close brother to me. My brother, a year younger than me, last 6 months under COVID virus. That hurt me very bad. And I've just been trying to just adjust and to I'm trying to get back in court because I'm supposed to be on probation next year. And what they did was they still kicked me in my behind coming out the door. They brought up other charges that they had non-processed 30 years ago relating to this case, right? That they threw out. But they brought it back up, and the lawyer was telling me that the murder saved the statutes, which is a lie. I did research on it. So I'm trying to get back in court to get that probation off me so I could get this monkey off my back so I could be able to move around and feel more free because I suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. And several little things, you know, like triggers me sometimes and cause anxiety because I went through a real traumatic experience. You know what I mean? And so I'm trying to get back in court. I just supported this new DA in Philadelphia, Larry Krasner.
Yes, sir.
I went down to I canvassed around the area where they asked me to go for 3 hours to get people to come out and support him and vote for him because since he's been in office the last 4 years, he has exonerated. He has a integrity, legal integrity unit, and he has gotten out 20 people that was falsely accused of crime. So my lawyer can't file his own ineffective assisted counsel. So I'm saying the probation that they gave me is illegal because the charges, the statute of limitations ran out. So either I would have to pay $50,000 and go through this process all over again, or I took the copy of that petition. I had wrote the petition, but the judge dismissed it, told me it was untimely. So I still got to go through the same thing. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to raise a legal defense fund for Kelvin Mars, P.O. Box 21506, Philly, PA, zip code 19131.
Yes, sir.
So I could get a lawyer to get me back in court and help me get back in front of a judge and have these charges withdrawn because the record shows that. And I'm very active in helping other brothers that I left behind in prison. I got brothers calling me and writing me every day. I've never forgot them. And, you know, my wife got mad and said, all I do is send all my money to people in prison. But I told her, you don't know what it's like. You know what I mean? I take care of things at home and stuff, but like, you know, I reach out to brothers because we had a family. We built like a family. We built a family. We had a comradeship. See, because in prison, that's all you have is one another. And we had a brotherhood, so it was strong. You know, we ate, we slept, we worked out, we studied together. We was together. But out here, you got all this distraction. You know, you got your family to take care of. You know, you got nieces and nephews. You know, you got everybody that, you know, need attention or drawn to them. And therefore, it's not that I don't think that people don't care about people in prison that they love, but I just think that they don't take the time out to reach out to them. And there's a lot of people in prison that's suffering because they lonely and they don't have no help and support.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm glad that
God has touched my heart to, you know, to be an advocate for those that I left behind, and to help to redeem and re-educate these young brothers out here to keep them from having to go through that.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. Well, I'm glad that you're able to do that. Brother Kelvin, what do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I well, I went out a couple of times, right? But that ain't no place for me. I went out, but I like to like to go down to just to get away, like to go down to Wildwood and sit on the beach
Yes, sir.
and reminisce. I play a little basketball with my nieces, my little grand nieces and nephews, and I like to read. I like to read.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. What type of music do you like to listen to?
I like I like the oldies. I like the old school stuff. I like the hip hop stuff too. Some of the words has a lot of meaning, or those has a lot of foul uh, words in it. But it's the beat is very good. If you listen to a lot of the words that what I mean, all the children, what I mean, they pick up on the words like that, so they show that they could learn.
Yes, sir.
So, because I know people that could recite every word for word that they say. So, just like the minister said, like we take that structure and take it to re-educate our people, and we could raise a whole nation instead of just using it as a negativity of calling our women bees and whores and ourselves dogs, and we downrating ourselves, and then we don't look at ourselves as respectful people,
Yes, sir.
because words do matter,
Absolutely.
and you know, I'm less serious than I used to be. You know, I'm easing up now, and I got older. And I understand things more. But you know, I thank Allah for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I stand for those brothers that didn't make it, and I'm glad to be a part of the Nation of Islam. And every time what I mean, I break bread with the brothers and sisters. I mean, I think about the brothers that I left behind. You know, because
Praise be to Allah.
a lot of brothers died in prison. Mhm.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I'm glad that you are striving to, help and give back and being a positive light in the community, sir. What advice would you give to young people who make it out and are struggling, or just people, period, but who are struggling with um, getting settled in society once being in prison?
Well, it's hard. It's hard. If you don't have no support, it's hard because the system is designed for you to come back. And that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to get this probation back. Because if I got jammed up, they got it with though I will never get out because they don't create what they call the career criminal act. Regardless of how small or minor the crime is, they'll bring up your past actions to justify the case might cost 2 to 4 years. But because of your prior former actions, they might give you 40 to 50 years.
Hey,
You know what I mean? Like third degree murder used to be 10 to 20 years, right? Now they done made third degree murder 20 to 40 years.
damn.
And second degree murder is life in prison. And first degree murder is natural life, or you could get the death penalty. And manslaughter is like in a heat of compassionate, like you didn't mean to kill the person, but you were defending yourself. But if you have a manslaughter homicide now, and you get rearrested for another murder or something happened, you automatically get a life sentence now. So they done tighten up the boat. So they had in the paper like last year about the disproportion of Black people being on probation and was going back for minor fractions. Like you have to pay court fines, you have to you don't have the money to go down to visit your PO. People don't have the car fare. If they're not working, they don't got no income, they don't have the car fare. And for those little manufacturers, they were sending you back to prison. So this year in the paper, they put in that they reduced it, that disproportion, but it still is way out of line. And so that's what made me call the lawyer and mention about my probation. Because in other states, you get a day for good behavior. So if I have 9 years probation and I walked off 4.5 years, I would get credit for that and they would cut off the other 4 years, because probation is to rehabilitate you, to bring you back in society, not to hold a hatchet over your head the rest of your life where you can't make it in society.
Yes, sir.
Because in this society, you can't get employment, you got a criminal felony, and you can't get housing. You know? And how is you supposed to make it? So they want you to turn back to the street and sell your people drugs, and then they entrap you. It's like when I went to prison, when I was from a gang, when I was growing up as a child, I was from a gang, 14, 15, 16 years old. You could run up on a group of guys, 10 or 20, 15 guys with one gun. And all them 15 or 20 guys, none of them might not have a gun and they would run. But out of all of them, one might have a gun, right? And the gun that you got then, you basically was stealing from like your father's gun, or bringing it out, using it and bringing it back in the house or something like that. But now today, they got guns everywhere. They got, because it's a design plan. And people can't wait to use the gun. Already in this city, was in the last, 3 months, 4 months, it already has been 170 something murders. Just the other day, just this weekend, it was over 20 shootings. So you can't even hardly walk the street and say hi to somebody, because some people are so out their mind, they just snap on you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, but me being Father, I'm doing how my approach is.
Okay, we're just waiting for his phone to get unmuted. Okay, waiting for our brother to come back. I want to continue to thank everybody who's watching the People's Podcast and getting this amazing information from our brother Kelvin, who served 33 years in prison.
Yes, okay, I'm right here, brother.
Yes, sir.
I'm right here, brother.
Okay, yes, sir. We're right here with you.
Yeah, so, see, and then, like, they sent me, Mumia, and all the other stronger brothers to the breaking jails then. That was SCI Huntington. SCI stands for State Correctional Institution, Huntington.
Yes, sir.
That's where they was murdering brothers, beating them down. That was the roughest penitentiary then in the state of Pennsylvania, when it was 7 penitentiaries. Then in 1974, that was Supermax Death Row, right? And guess how many phone calls we got a month?
Right.
Now, I'm asking you a question. Guess how many phone calls? Here's a man, here you on death row, you're fighting for your life, right?
Yes, sir.
And guess how many phone calls you got a month?
4.
No, sir. Try one more time.
1.
One phone call a month.
Yeah.
Now, how can you defend yourself? And then they got lawyers on your case that don't even never visit you or see you, because they don't have the money, they ain't got the funds. They gave the defense lawyer only $150 to do an investigation. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
We stayed locked in 23 hours a day. If you didn't come out for the yard, you didn't come out. You got a chance to use the law library once or twice out of every 2 weeks. And everywhere we went with our hands behind our back. And we got a shower every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And you had to be standing at the door, but sometimes the guards would burn you out your shower. Sometimes they'd burn you out your yard because they didn't like you. See, because they let us get a TV and radio. So they felt like that we had too much then, because at that time, we didn't have no computer or typewriter. So when you get a write-up, they take your TV and radio and they put you on another side of the prison with nobody had a TV and radio, and that was a privilege too. You could go to commissary. So now, you know, to buy like food and stuff like that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So now when they put you on, when they gave you a write-up and put you on disciplinary, you couldn't go to commissary. The only thing you could get from commissary was soap and ink pen, and a piece of paper, a pad. So it wasn't until then 1994 they built the SCI Green, State Correctional Institution Green, a supermax, a control unit that's opened by the doors, control unit with a bubble. And they started giving us a phone call 2 times out of a week, right? But somebody, then they started letting, they had supposed to been letting us come out the cell like on a daily basis, but they didn't let us out the cell. They had hard plastic furniture, they had weights in the back room, they had TV set up. It was a new modern prison, but they wouldn't let us out. So what they did is they started letting like several individuals out, or the inmates. That created hostility because they tell the inmates don't pass for you and stuff like that, like, you know, magazines and all that.
Yes,
we
sir.
used to have to we used to take like strings from sheets and like toothpaste, flatten the toothpaste and make a hole in it and stuff and shoot it out the door. We called it fishing. And guys can fish from the top tier to the bottom tier and grab magazines and stuff and pour it back up to them to their cell. That's how we had to survive. But now, within the last 3 years, right, now they letting the guys out of death row out on a regular basis now. But when I was there, every time you went somewhere, you went handcuffed, you ain't have no contact visits, you had visits out plexiglass. And when we got there, those devils was even worse. The further up the hills we got, they was even worse. And a lot of the inmates, they envied the Father's Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because every time you talk to somebody, they think you was trying to convert them. That might be their friend or something like that. And they would put a slip into the guards, an anonymous slip, to persecute us, saying that we was trying to teach somebody or something like that. Next thing you know, they done moved the person or they done moved you and stuff like that and everything. Because guards used to come to my cell, you follow that Farrakhan? I said, yeah, I follow Farrakhan. They ain't like the Million Man March thing, you know what I mean? They was frowning and stuff about that, you know? But we survived that, you know? We survived that.
Praise be to Allah. What was it like did y'all ever get to see women? Like have women visitors?
You could get a visit, but it was through a perplex glass. You had a belt around your wrist and your hands, and it was through a screen. You had no contact, no human contact. For 25 years, I wasn't able to hug nobody or touch nobody.
Yes, sir. Okay, now in movies, Brother Kelvin, they show where it's like if you're on death row, you get to choose a last meal.
What'd you say, brother?
Yes, sir. I said in movies, they show that people who are on death row get to pick like a last meal, right? Is that something that you ever made up in your mind, or did you ever think that you were going to have to, deal with that?
No, see, I got clicked off. No, see, now, like I said, in 1997, they came up with this federal funding for these lawyers, right? A lot of them is Jews, right? This lawyer stayed on my case 16 years, right? All the other lawyers stayed on my case 2 to 3 years, and they got off my case. So they had the federal money. So he kept fighting, right? So when they signed my death warrant, I wanted the court to give up jurisdiction over me so I could get in federal court, so I could get out of state court, because I wasn't getting no remedy in state court. But what I was saying is, when the lawyers came in my case, when I get to federal court, they gave them other documents that they had withheld and suppressed in my case, but they could not litigate it in federal court without going back to state court first and let the state court hear it. So they held the case in abeyance in federal court, right? So I went back to state court, like it took another whole 8 years, and they denied it, right? And then they signed my death warrant. The last time they signed my death warrant, it hit me out clearly. They gave me a date, they gonna sign my death warrant. I was 3 days away from that execution date. The guards came to my cell, said, if you don't get a stay by tomorrow, we packing you up, we taking you up Rockville. Rockville is the prison where they had the execution chamber at, right? So what my lawyers did is the Supreme Court was sitting on my death warrant stay, right? And the lawyers, they were going to like let them execute me and say my appeal was moot, right?
Yes, sir.
But the lawyers went and filed something in federal court under like writ of habeas corpus and said what they going to do, ask the Supreme Court what they going to do about his stay execution. So the clerk court and federal court contacted the parliamentary and federal court, in state court. So what happened is when the federal judge came down a day or two before my execution and granted me a stay, right?
Yes, sir.
An hour later, the state Supreme Court came back down and granted me a stay and took back over jurisdiction of my case. So that meant that I had to go back before them again. They wanted to hear something, and they held my case up another 6 years. They play games, brother. So to make a long story short, at the end, when we finally got federal funding from the Federal Defense Association, although they sold me out at the end to represent us, had we not had them, a lot of people would have been executed because they had no lawyers. The lawyers wasn't contacting them. It was brothers that prior to them coming on my case, death warrant was signed, and they walked by my cell. I said, yo, brother Ali. He said, yeah. I said, they signed your death warrant. He said, oh yeah, where you hear that at? I said, I heard it on the news. And next thing you know, they come get you and take you from where you at with other people on death row and take you and put you in an isolated area. And he's sitting there by himself. And the lawyer ain't contacting me.
Yes, sir.
So since this Federal Defense Association came on the case that's federally funded, like when I went on, we got clicked off. I can't see you. What happened?
Yes, sir. I think, 1 second.
Wait a minute. I can hear you. Hold on. Yeah. So what was I saying?
Yes,
what was
sir.
I saying?
You was talking about your brother who got isolated right once you about to go get executed, or they signed your death warrant.
Right. And a lot of brothers, man, like, and then like by being so isolated, like when you go out to the yard, you go out into a cell, you go out into a cage. You can go out there by yourself, or you could go out there with someone. You was in a cage, like a 8-foot cage, 12-foot wide, walk back and forth. They had no activities for you to do. We used to play handball. That was it.
Yes, sir. It's messed up. But I'm glad you survived, Brother Kelvin. And so many people are showing you love. I can't wait to put this on YouTube. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe. And Brother Kelvin, can we get your P.O. box one more time for people who want to support you?
Yes, my P.O. box is 21506, Philly, PA 19131. P.O. Box 21056, Philly, PA 19131.
Perfect. Well, this has been an honor, sir. Thank you all for watching. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off of the People's Podcast. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Well, thank you, brother, and contact me anytime.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
It's nice talking to you, brother.
Yes, sir. It's my honor, sir.
Yes, sir.